Lessons from the Immigration Spectrum. Accepted to MIT. My family has taken living in the big city as a reason for why we should never give up. Here in Los Angeles, there are countless individuals and families along all points on the immigration spectrum, from recent arrivals to recent citizenship. Residing in this great city has provided me with diversity, opportunity, acceptance, and an abundance of role models to follow through all troubles, big and small. I always thought that I had it the worst out of all my family members because I was never allowed to get anything lower than what my brother or a cousin had gotten in a class. My parents figured if they could do it, so could I, and if not on my own, then with a little of their help. It was not until recently that I realized the truth in this. In my short life, I have seen my father go from speaking no English to excelling in it. I have heard countless stories about migrant farmers such as Cesar Chavez and my grandfather, who had nearly nothing, yet persisted and succeeded. Growing up, hearing these stories of great injustices and misfortunes has truly influenced my long-term goals. I'm going to go far because there's no excuse for not doing my best, given all I have been blessed with. When I had trouble speaking Spanish and felt like abandoning my native tongue, I remembered my mother and how when she came to the United States, she was forced to wash her mouth out with soap and endure beatings with a ruler by the nuns at her school for speaking it. When I couldn't figure out tangents, sines, and cosines, I thought about my father and how it took him nearly a year to learn long division because he was forced to teach it to himself after dropping out and starting to work in the 4th grade. And when I wanted to quit swimming because I was tired, I remembered my grandfather and how no matter how his muscles ached, if he stopped digging or picking fruit or plowing, he risked not having enough food to feed his family. Pursuing technical fields such as math and engineering first seemed like work for men to me, but times have changed. All these people just from my family have been strong role models for me. I feel that being labeled underprivileged does not mean that I am limited in what I can do. There is no reason for me to fail or give up, and like my parents and grandparents have done, I've been able to pull through a great deal. My environment has made me determined, hardworking, and high-aiming. I would not like it any other way. This is how my Hispanic heritage, family upbringing, and role models have influenced my academic and personal long-term goals. I've read the analysis below. I agree with some of it. I actually disagree with a lot of it too. So let's just go through. First and foremost, I loved the intro. I think the intro was done very well. There's a lot of strength when you are able to start off very strong with kind of a conviction statement like this. We should never give up. Right? Starting broadly like that, but with a positive conviction. Then moving on to filling in the details, the who, what, when, where, why. So immediately setting the scene for me, Los Angeles, immigrant spectrum, citizenship. He goes broadly, or he or she, the writer goes broadly through this. Diversity, opportunity, acceptance, and abundance. But again, maintains that strength towards making things feel very positive. And rather than listy, though it is a list, it sounds like he's really showcasing all the things he's collected that makes him confident. So this intro, very great start. I would argue that it actually gets weaker for me as we go down in the essay. There's a lot of grammatical issues that I noticed across this essay as well. There's many missing commas. Again, you don't need to be perfect grammatically if you get accepted to a school. Oh my gosh, if I missed a comma, will they reject me from a school? Not necessarily. And this would be evidence of that, case in point. But for me, the intro was really good. Where did it start to? I think the rest of the second paragraphs were really good too. One thing I'd want students to note is I love how students name drop things like this: intellectual, historical, context points. Intellectual context points could be things like authors they've read, books they've read. Just throwing those in every now and then and connecting themselves to like a grander theme or connotation, I think it's very powerful. So students, if you feel like you can start throwing in a mixture interdisciplinarily of things you've learned and showing that you're connecting all the things you've learned together, rather than saying, I'm only an engineer, so I'm only going to do engineering things, that's not good either. But a student like this, being able to connotate someone like Cesar Chavez in terms of like social movement and understanding, I think that was really good. Otherwise, yeah, I again, very strong ethos. The if not on my own, then a little with their help. It was not until I realized the truth in this, that in my short life, that maybe he's learned to see the role models in others. Again, this is very much about growth, personal growth. It's not about demonstrating your personal achievements. Growing up hearing these stories of great injustices, I think this is where it starts to fall apart for me. I think here is where it gets a little sob story-y, the hardships that people go through enlisting. I personally think he should have replaced this. Maybe he could have been sharper with this and maybe incorporating it here, so that the second half of his essay, instead of it being sob story, lessons learned from the pity of his mother, father, grandfather, but rather how he then turned that and learned what it means to be determined or hardworking or high aiming. How he himself is applying what his role models teach him. This is where I think this is an older essay. And if I could be a little bit more forward about this, this is an essay that probably got in because of other tags, right? Because socioeconomic. I can hear some students right now thinking like, dude, my parents or not, they didn't work in the farms or anything like that. They were solidly middle class. I wouldn't be able to write an essay like this. And I totally understand that. I think that this brings up a great example of how some students' life stories are just going to have a better chance than yours. If your parents are middle class and there's nothing too dramatic, unfortunately, that kind of puts you in a tough situation. But if that doesn't mean you can't write a good essay. I would take the advice that I'm giving to this essay right now. If you're a student that doesn't have a sob story like this, like you don't need this sob story, right? You just need to talk about where you learned to be more determined and how you then applied that determination in certain areas in your life, and what impact did it have? Where did you learn hard working and then ultimately to aim high? If you focused on growth stories, I think that you would achieve a better outcome, a better sense of yourself and a usage of your essay choice here. I know the analysis, if you read it later, if you're interested, guys, you could read this, and it mentions how the author shares specific examples. I disagree with that. I think this is a little bit of an older set of examples, still useful, still much to learn from. I think as of today, though, I'm much more. I think essays have evolved over the years, so this would really just be working to get in if you already have the socioeconomic tag. Otherwise, yeah, the challenge would be, how do you write this without all the sob if you don't have any of that sob story in your life, kind of thing. I hope that this was helpful. I think that at the end of the day, the more you read, the more you're going to be able to get a sense of how you want to craft your narrative. So I'll try to continue to pump more of these out. All right, until next time.